Alright, well I'm back and it is actually the next day, so I figured we'd go ahead and change out this Bakelite block. So I went ahead and, well, first of all I took reference pics, although this is pretty simple, but always take reference pics, you never know. And just as an extra precaution, I mean, I figured I knew which ones were which, but you know, it's easy to say when you're looking at it, but once you get the wires off of there, suddenly you don't know where anything went. So I went ahead and just marked off the wires for which poles they go to. And while I was at it, I figured out which of these two 22 microfarad capacitors was actually supposed to be the 4 and which one was supposed to be the 12. So I marked that off as well. And this actually was connected to the ground up here, since it's supposed to go to ground, which is kind of what I figure. These Philco, probably one of the reasons they use these Bakelite blocks was to give a mounting point for different items. Although this does have a built-in terminal strip from the factory. Although I guess this is now the second Philco set that I've seen that actually has a terminal strip in it. But anyway, so I started to desolder already. I took this one off and used my trusty little plunger here to get some of this excess solder off of here. So this Bakelite block, since it's only got a couple of wires on it and it's kind of out on its own, I'm just going to go ahead and pull it out so you guys can see it as well. There is another way to do this. If they're buried down deep inside, probably shouldn't be using a soldering iron as a pointer. If they're buried down deep inside with a lot of wires, you can loosen these up, drill out the centerpiece here. Don't drill off you don't want to get the tabs off, but drill the center out. And then I use those bamboo skewers, and they fit through the hole pretty well. And then you can usually squish the potting compound out through the bottom after you've loosened the screw. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some more of this excess solder, and I'll pull this block out and you guys can see one of these blocks, although like I said, I'm sure you guys have seen these before, but I find it fun to watch, so I'll be right back. Alright, I am back, and I ended up using one of my little cheap Harbor Freight files to after I sucked out more solder, as you can see here. Anyway, so I used this. Oops, where am I here? Like so, and it, just to get it to break the wires off. But what I also discovered was that this is going to be a tough one. This potting compound in here is, I guess, a side effect of sitting in the house for so long. It's in there pretty good, and it does not want to easily come out. I started to pull out my trusty old heat gun, and I was going to put it on low and hit it a few times, but it really stinks when you do that. So what I'm trying right now is somebody else on one of the I think it was on the Antique Radio Forum, said that when he's doing these blocks, he keeps an old pan of simmering water on a hot plate and then drops them in there for a few minutes. So I'm going to give that a shot and see how that works. I've got water boiling there, so, or the kettle is on anyway. So I'm going to pause this for a minute and let's see what happens when we try boiling water. Okay, I know I have a pause button here somewhere. There it is. Alright, well, while we're waiting for our Bakelite block to steep, I was going to say, Billy brought up something in my last video about how a lot of people don't test the coils in the radios, and I was kind of thinking about that because at our last radio meeting, you know, people are sitting around talking, and I keep hearing when I'm there people talking about how they don't understand how some of this stuff works, and that, you know, they replace some caps, and if it doesn't work they put it off to the side and then ask for help later. And I don't know, maybe I'm just it just seems to me that it would be logical to test the coils, because I mean, if you've got an open coil, there's no real point, I don't think, in, you know, going through and replacing other components until you get that settled, because if you don't have any coils, you're never going to have any radio. So, or at least, I guess if you have a bad coil, you could have some radio, but not very much. But anyway, so I just thought that was an interesting comment, but I had noticed that myself. So, I don't know how long this is going to have to sit in here. It's a pretty small container, so I'm pretty sure the water's going to be cool before anything happens. I mean, before too long. It is softening up, so I'm going to go ahead, I guess, and pause this for a few minutes and let this sit, and I will be back. Well, hey, what do you know? It's actually doing something. It's starting to come out pretty easy. I guess the big thing that I'm afraid of when I'm digging these things out is cracking the block. And by the way, this is kind of hot. So, I can see capacitors. We've got buried treasure here. Buried toxic treasure, I guess. Alright, so there you go. Dropping it in hot water was not a bad idea. Oh, got one capacitor out. Whew, that does not smell pleasant. And got capacitor number 2 out. So, there you go. The hot water method actually worked pretty well, and it's not leaving. The goop is coming right out. So, yay, thanks to whoever suggested that. And just so you know, I don't use this one for food. In fact, I think I have writing on there that says no food. Well, there you go. The block is out. So I'm going to go ahead, I guess, and scrape this out a little bit more and dry it up. And then, you know, I've always wanted to, I should have tested these first. I'm always curious how good or bad they are. But, so, let's see. This has a number 13 on it. Oh, I guess I could test it. There's the leads. And what's this one say? I'm going to regret getting this crap all over me. This one actually says 25. I'm not sure what those numbers mean exactly, because yeah, I knew I was going to regret touching that stuff. Pew! According to the schematic, these should be, both should be 0.01 microfarads, so, and the block ID is, let's see what part numbers, 30, yeah, 3903DG, so that's the part number. Wow, that water left a... Actually, it didn't do such a bad job. It kind of took off a lot of the flux that was floating around. I guess you couldn't see all that. I was just so ingrained in my thing. So there's the block. It's pretty clean. A little bit here and there, but so there you go. Hot water worked really well, and it it only took about 3 or 4 minutes in that hot water for it to soften up enough to just crumble right out. And believe me, I had the first thing I did was you know, sitting here, and I don't think you want to stare at my Safeway Select Thick and Thirsty or whatever the towels are called. So anyway, yeah, so that took about 3 minutes in the hot water, and beforehand it was pretty tough. I mean, I tried to dig into it, and it just, the only thing I did was flake that one little chunk off that's under here somewhere. Anyway, so hot water works wonders. In fact, I kind of learned that when the rubber grommets were stuck or fossilized pretty much onto the tuning condenser on the 610. I could not for the life of me figure out how to get that stuff off of there, and I just dropped them in hot water for 2 minutes at the most, and they peeled right off. And same thing with the potting compound. And I didn't make a smoky mess, so just got some water all over the place, which of course is going to make my cork warp like everything else does. But alright, so let me clean this up a little bit, and I'll be back and we'll put in the caps, new caps.